Alright guys, so in this series of lectures I'm going to talk to you about how to unwrap hard surface objects and to efficiently get them in here and look at optimization. Basically optimization and unwrapping hard surface. It's very important when unwrapping and tackling a hard surface object you think of the modeling principles and you think of what's the best way to approach it so you get less distortion in your texture. And this will carry over to even to movies and so forth. We'll talk about what helps the silhouette and does not. And this right here is a little dungeon crawler I did for designing 3D environments. We were actually taking it, slowly unwrapping this guy, and looking at optimization. As you can see, I've optimized some of these angles, and the same thing goes with making models for movies. If it doesn't help the silhouette, weld it. Case in point in this particular guy here, if we don't need this to define anything, it isn't defining anything at all, you go in there and you weld it. It's just a good practice to get into. We can use the merge vertex tool, which sometimes can be a little bit fussy, but we can get it sometimes to do what we want. So we can click on the edge, pull it down, and again with that merge vertex tool I can choose exactly where I want that to snap to. Right now it currently has a target vertex. You can also have it go to the center if you need it. This is completely up to you. So, and you can see over here, notice this, we have a waste of edges here. We don't need all of this stuff. We don't need all of it. So again, we can go in here and merge these, because if it doesn't help the silhouette, you want to go in here and merge them. There you go, look at that. So that didn't define anything. It does define here on the other side, the dent, but it doesn't define anything on the opposite side. Like back here, we don't need any extra erroneous details. So I can do the same thing again. Go in here and weld these guys where they are not needed. And it's very important to think of that concept as you go, because it saves on poly, it saves on render time in general. So when approaching these type of objects, so the three things we're going to try to unwrap here is we're going to unwrap the floor. We're going to unwrap one of these simple cubes. We're going to unwrap an arch, probably a fourth thing I'll include, and then we'll unwrap the pillar. So we have a unique flat surface, a square surface, an arch surface, and a cylindrical object. So number one, let's go ahead and take a look at the floor, how we would approach this. I've indented it so that there's spikes coming through, giving myself room if I want to animate this in Unreal. I could create a trigger, a character come through, and make these go and affect and hurt the trigger, causing the character, causing damage. So let's go to object mode. One of the things that's really important before you start unwrapping, even after you unwrap, is good to delete your history so you don't get any kind of weirdness happening. What Maya has a tendency to do when you are working on your projects, it can go in here and create these strange ghosted nodes that show up. I don't currently have any, but except for maybe this guy right here, it's probably from an imported object. And these nodes come in, they're called transform nodes. It's Maya trying to keep track of all your information as you work. It gets these little packets of information in here. Unfortunately, these packets of information can be a pain in the butt because they can cause strange distortions. They can even make things not work, and even your materials at times may not even work anymore. They'll break. And I've had that happen before on an architectural project a while back. So they can creep up on you if you don't watch out for them. So let's take a look at the floor here. See what we got. Doesn't look like he has any real history. That's fine. So what we need to do, we need to unwrap this guy. But the first thing you need to do when it comes to unwrapping is evaluate the space, evaluate the object's shape. So we see that he's flat. So one of the best things we can use under Create UVs, and this is under Polygons, we're going to use planar mapping. I'm going to pop that up. The option you want to set it to is Best Plane. Now this isn't on by default. Most of the time it's on by bounding box. Best Plane, what happens is Maya looks at the best possible way to project your UVs, and best plane for this flat object is the best. So we're going to hit apply, and you'll see we have a nice flat square and a 3D projection for it. This 3D projection allows us to manipulate everything within our OpenGL or in our viewer, and right now it's in scale mode, so I could scale it up, scale it down. It's kind of up to me. I can click on this little red L. I can change it to rotation if I needed to rotate it. Now I don't need to rotate it. We want to keep it flat because that's the surface. So once we're done, he's already got his UVs ready, set to go. You also make sure you apply a material to all your objects. Do not use the default. Never use the default material. And to do so, you can just right-click and assign new material and just choose whatever you need. So we have the UV set on him. Let's go and view these under Windows, UV Texture Editor. Pop that up. With this guy set up, what we need to do is make sure that there's no pinching at all. Now, from a previous lecture, I've already had this guy done. But to prevent any unfolding, overlapping, we're going to click on our Toggle Shaded UV Display. Icons are a little bit different in 2012 and 2011, but it's primarily the same. Just kind of scroll over if you're not familiar with the particular icon. So what I can do is grab these areas that I want to define. We can actually just do the whole thing at once. There we go. And I'll go in here under my Smooth UV tool, and I can interactively unfold them. See that little bit of movement there? That's actually good. We want a little bit of movement because we know, even though it's planar mapped, it's going to be a little bit tight. So this unfold allows everything to be evenly distributed on my surface. Again, you'll see it before and after kind of deal. Alright. Relax. What relax does, it relaxes it even more. Unfortunately, relax can make things look less close to its original shape. It'll relax it too much. So you just got to be careful with that. But unfold for very simple objects works pretty darn good. You can see it worked out pretty nicely. So when you unfold that, and this actually works really well with window seals. You'll see me do this with the arch. When you do unfold it, again, we need to test it out to see if we have any warping. And to do so, with this particular material that we've created, let's go into our attributes. We're going to go in here and grab this material, and we're going to add a checkerboard pattern. Checkerboard pattern is good to include because we want to be able to see what it's going to look like with that in its system. So I'm going to go in here, and what we're checking for distortion is really what we're doing. So I'm going to my hard drive real quick. Go into winter, and it should be in my out folder and the top of my designing 3D environments. There we go. Grab this guy. Usually you have to give it a second to power up. Alright, so it looks like he's not quite displaying. That's okay. We are going to just apply it. So let me turn on and make sure we have texture on. There we go. It's on. Yay, team. So we have it on this guy. And it looks like it came in pretty nicely. That's actually not too bad. I'm going to apply a different material on this guy here. Just in case if we do go back and we actually do put a texture on him. And a different one on this guy. And this guy too. Hit the G key. Complete that last process. G key will keep us... we'll apply the same material on those guys. That's fine. Alright. So you can see we have our object, our floor, all laid out. It's actually not too shabby. Obviously our spikes need some more UV love. But you can see there's little to no distortion. Pretty nice. That's kind of what we want. So that's a quick way to tackle that one particular soft shape. Or easy, simple shape. Let's actually tackle the arch. This guy can be a little bit trickier. Also wanted to tell you guys, when it comes to modeling, delete anything that's not going to be seen by the player or in the animation. In this case, we can actually see the floor is not going to be seen, so we're going to remove that. That'll actually save time and make the file not so big. We're basically optimizing and getting rid of stuff that is just not needed. There you go, keeping it nice and efficient. So we got this guy here, got a nice little wall. What we need to do to this guy and this guy is we're going to have to unwrap them. Now the procedure on both of these guys is going to be a bit different. So let's start out with the arch like we mentioned before. And what we'll do, and we'll say, I'll leave the back for now. What we'll do is we're going to grab our UVs in the front. Because we're really not going to worry too much about the back right now. We're going to mainly focus on this guy. Because the procedure I'm going to use is going to work pretty nicely on this guy. So what I'll do is go to my create UVs. And in this case, we can create UVs based on camera. We need to change our camera view. Let's change our camera view to the front. There we go, buddy. And then now we're going to go create UVs based on UV, based on camera. Boom. And what we get, open up our UV texture editor, we'll get a few pieces floating around. These are the back side of the pillar. We can remove them by clicking on UVs, select one of these UVs, we can go right click and select shell. We got to make sure we don't stay on this tool. You'll find out a lot of things don't work when you stay in any of these tools here. It can be kind of frustrating. So simply just go to your move tool and move them around. Hit W too if you want. So now this is the front projection. We're going to grab this guy, but he needs to look like the shape. And that's one thing you have to keep in mind when it comes to UVs. Your UV layout, sorry about that, hit my microphone. Your UV layout needs to imitate the original shape of the object. If it does not, because it's literally the skin, you're skinning this object. If it does not, you'll get distortion. So we're going to activate our Smooth UV tool again, and then we can unfold. Now in cases like this, when it gets really weird, you're like, oh my god, it's totally not what I want. What you can do is isolate the areas that you know the pinching isn't correct. Like the top part isn't too bad, but right in here we can unfold that a little bit. Just a little bit there if we want. And then we can resize it if we need to. You can also use relax. Relax sometimes in this case can work pretty well. Notice it's working a little bit better than our unfold. Okay, not too shabby. When you do Control Z. Now remember me talking about how it looks really nice or works really well when it comes to picture frames. What we can do, again, we can isolate the region that we want. So I can go in here and isolate the area that I know is not being represented completely nicely. And we can go in here back to our smooth UVs, and then we can try a little bit of relaxing. Look at that. Not too bad. We're actually unfolding it. Again, this is a case when the relax is working pretty well, so it can actually a little bit better than our unfold, because unfold gets all retarded. Gets weird. So you just have to play with it to decide which one will work best for your object. Down here, if we have a little bit of trouble, we can try a little bit of relax here. See if there's anything we're missing. It seems to be okay. Looks like I got a little weld. There is a little bit of interior we need to fix. Got some internals happening. So we can try this. Grab this one, relax, or unfold. There we go. Unfold works pretty well. So what we need to do here is just shift this a little bit. So if I'm grabbing a little bit of this, we can do unfold again. And then we can just make these guys flat. So to make your UVs flat, we'll grab this edge here and push it to the level. Grab this guy here and make sure you have the right ones. I don't quite have the right one there. And flatten that out. Bam. There we go. And then we can grab this guy. So you'll see it's a level here, right? So we need to get these guys level too. So again, we'll push it down, and we'll push it down. Alright, and you'll notice this guy's a little more of an angle, so we need to go in here and grab this, and grab this guy. And what I like to do when that happens, you can always switch that to scale. We can scale that in. And maybe this guy needs to be moved over a little bit. We can do scale also for this. And again, it's just you kind of reorganizing the shape. So that's actually not too bad. So we just maybe need to tweak it a little bit and just compare it. And one thing we can do too is just grab the overall thing. You can see it definitely is pinched more than this guy. And just scale it. Scale that whole thing over. So now with that all set up, we're going to apply our checkerboard pattern to him. And then we can see where our distortion is happening. Let's grab that checkerboard pattern real quick. There we go. And open. So we can see he's actually unwrapped pretty good, except for the side. Notice the side is getting a little weird. So we can go in there and we can fix that. I can show you how. So you can see this is where some of the distortion is happening, right in here. And the reason why, if we compare this guy to the original, we can see what is not quite equal. Notice the scale on this is bigger than the rest of it. So when that happens, we can even isolate this even more. Now that's one way we can approach it, with relaxing as well as unfolding. But if you want to be able to isolate a particular region, we can even have it so we don't even unwrap the sides, we just unwrap the front. You just have to make sure, if you do them at the same time, you have to make sure they match in some way. So I can go in here and grab this guy, and I'm going to planar map him again. And we can rotate him real quick. And I don't like to rotate here. If I rotate here, sometimes you get a little bit of distortion. So what I'll do is I'll rotate here in our little environment. This is usually the best. And the thing is, if you say you can't quite get it right, you're like, oh, son of a gun, I can't quite rotate that. Don't panic. You can actually use your channel box. And you can punch in exactly how this rotation, you imagine this rotation to be. So we go in here and we can rotate this guy. Let me see. We need a, put this at 0 and this at 0. Let's see what we got. There we go. He's still flush. And then this guy, we're going to make like 90. There we go. Pretty good. Not too shabby. So you can literally punch in the numbers. And it actually looks pretty nice. So with that new planar map I did, that actually is not too bad for the front. It is getting a little pinchy in here, right? Let's go and do a quick rotate at a 45-degree angle here with this tool. Let's dim our background color so we can actually see our UVs better. That's that little kid here. Looks like he belongs in a milk carton. Sorry, bad joke. Alright, so we go and zoom in. Dark humor. So we got this angle here. Let's go and take a look. Look at that. It's a little distorted, right? So let's go and try to see if we can fix that. So we'll go to UVs again. Let's remove all the erroneous stuff that we're not using at this time. So I'll grab this. Reset the select shell button. Grab him. Move it. Don't need him. Same thing. Select shell. Grab him. Move him over. Grab this guy overall. Maybe scale him down just a bit. Now the times that you would actually keep things within 0 to 1, you want to keep things in 0 to 1 if it's not going to repeat its pattern. You have an isolated shape and object. But if you do need a repeated pattern object, you need it to repeat its pattern over and over again, then you can take it out of the 0 to 1. As long as you know how it's going to look when you mess with it. So we can see this weirdness in here. So in this case, when this happens, you have like an underneath the belly of an object. We can actually run another planar map on this guy, or even UVs based on camera, because that may help us a little bit here with its overall shape. Or again, like I did before, I can isolate that region and I can do the unfold tool, and it may work pretty well. There it goes. So you can see the unfold tool can work good, but it depends on what you've selected, on what you've got. Notice the back side that we had before gave us a little bit of trouble. You'll notice it works good here, but giving us a little bit of trouble in here. So in that case, when that happens, what we can do is try to minimize or shrink down what needs to be fixed. So we can go in here and we see that it's not quite exactly the way that we want. But that's because we've only focusing on the front. So what we can do again for the inside, we can actually make another, like I said before, planar map and so forth. And we can try that again. Alright, so that's how we can unfold the front. And then now for the side, you can always find out what it is you're looking at. Let's switch the faces again and get off that tool. You can see what's being selected. So we can see that's the interior. So we go to UVs, grab all those UVs, and let's see if we do a little bit of unfold. Oh, we want all of those UVs, not some of them. Looks like it fought me a little bit there. Try that again. Grab all those UVs. There we go. Do a little unfold, and we can see that we get some areas that are less distortion than others. Still give us a little bit of trouble. So what we can do, like I said before, we can select them all. Let's go to faces. I love this. You can just switch faces here. Let's switch our tool and faces. There we go. And from here, from even the top down, dun dun dun, we can run another planar map. So again, there's multiple ways that you can tackle these. We can do planar map based on camera. Any way that you're comfortable. You can even split it in half and do planar map on this side and planar map on this side. That's actually not that bad. Let's see what this turns out to be. Do planar map here. You'll notice it's very straightforward, very cube-like, right? So we can go in here now, grab all these UVs, and we'll see if unfold does this right. Sometimes, again, it can be tricky. Ah, look at that. Perfect. So unfold worked pretty well with that. Look at that. Really nice and laid out. And the nice thing about the unfold, it takes in account the shape. So now we have the interior of the arch. We just need to scale it down because it's way big. scale him down. We can rotate him a bit. The W key, fit him into 0 to 1. If it's not a primary thing our player or animation is focusing on, we can scale it pretty small, because that's probably the thing that's going to be seen more than anything else. And then now, we can go in here and do the exterior. Look how nice that came out. That came out really nice. And it doesn't necessarily have to match. Unless you have dirt going over to the other side, we can take this into Mudbox if we need to. Or we can even stitch this guy. And you have to do a little push and pull and moving. We can find out where the associated edges are going to be simply by selecting. You can see that guy goes there. So it's like a puzzle. So again, it depends who's going to see what. This is just one way to tackle it. And every scenario is going to be a little bit different. So let's go into this one here. And now we have the back side, right? So we can treat this thing the same way we just did with the interior. So this time we can grab it. I'll do faces. Grab that. I don't want the interior this time, so I can turn that off. So let's not select that interior. Nope, 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 niet, nada. Double check, and one more. Alright, so deselect it. So we got like the exterior and the back side. We probably don't want that yet either. Again, this all depends on the scenario, what's going to be seen, what's going to be focused on, because if a player is going to see something up close, you'll probably want these guys to be stitched together. But in this case, I'm going to say the player's about this high, and he's probably never going to see that up top. We could even make the UV shell small. So now I can do another planar map on that. With that planar mapped, grab my UVs, grab all of them, hit the W key, move it over, and again, we will see the magic of unfold. Unfold it. Bam! There we go. There's the top. Now watch how nice it looks up here. Ooh, look at that. Came in real nice. Now again, if you want it to match, we have to go in here and place it appropriately. Okay. You'll notice this guy gets a little bit distorted because it's a curve. It happens. It's just going to happen a little bit because it's a curved type of object. This is the top arch. So we can go in here and even adjust this just a little bit to get some of these distortions to go away. And the reason why those distortions are happening is because your shape here isn't quite exact to the shape of the object in 3D. Alright, so we can scale this down. We'll do a little rotation. Rotation. We're going to move it over here. Alrighty then. Dun, dun, dun. So we got now the front and the interior and exterior. And again, this all depends on what you're doing this for, and you got to think about how to tackle it. Alright, so that covers the floor and the arch. The next video we're going to talk about how to tackle the cylindrical object and the box, and the best ways to do that. Alright, cool.